There are adobe homes, very old homes. There are mobile homes. There are farms, and of course the santuario. There's the post office, Orlando Martinez's general store, 2 weaving shops, and a cantina. That's our village. And it exists in a village system of northern New Mexico. These are the pueblos, the native lands, and then also these Indo-Hispano villages. And the traditional way of organizing is that the women own the village. So the women own the homes, the domestic animals, and the gardens. Very powerful position. And the men, their terrain, are the common lands that go up from every village into the Sierra, into the mountains. And their job is to hunt and to fish and to gather the firewood to provide for the village. It's also a very powerful position. And there's lateral trade between the different villages that still exists. Traditionally, we are known for our chile and for our weaving. Another village, Alcalde, has its apples, El Valle has sheep, etc., etc. So when you live in a village, you know everyone because you live with them. There aren't the kind of harsh separations that people have in city life. So my friends are farmers, they're community organizers. I know the drug dealers. I know the town drunks. I know the owner of the cantina. I know the drug recovery therapists. I know the state police. I know the weavers, and I know the Walmart workers, and I know the priest, and I know the pagans. So there it is, it's all one. And everyone knows the history because people keep talking about the history. You know, a day doesn't go by when you don't refer to something being the way it is today because of the way it was back then. And also because at a certain point you realize that you're living through the history, that you are the history. And what everybody has in common is the community. So what your position is ultimately doesn't even matter because everyone is trying to serve the community. And at the base of that, of course, is sovereignty. And this is defined by each village. We have this phrase, and it's so marvelous, and it gives me as a writer so much joy to be thinking about language, because many of the phrases that we use sound like English, but actually they're Spanish constructions with English just slapped on top. So we have a term that's a person is from here, or they are not from here. This is very important. This isn't just throwaway terms. This is like #1 of interest term. So one time, by the way, the county, of course, is a governmental overlay. And granted, people who work for the county or are elected to the county are all Chicanos, but still, structure-wise, it's an overlay. So somebody in the county called me up and we said, we're having village meetings, and we're having one in Dixon, different village from my village, and we want you to go up there and tell them about blah, blah. And so I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. So I go up to this village meeting. I didn't get through the door jam into the elementary school gym before someone from Dixon recognized me and yelled out, Chimayosa! And so that was it. I was recognized as being from another village, and I knew that that was the end. You know, I was not going to be speaking at this meeting. And so I sat in the back and didn't speak. That's just a little sample of how sovereignty works. And when you have a concern for sovereignty of your village, you also have a concern about invasion from the outside. So one of the biggest invasions that happened in northern New Mexico was when the US government came in and took it over. 1846, 1848, the Mexican-American War. It was a war of aggression. And basically the United States won and took half of Mexico away from them. Of course, the invasion has never stopped. My friend Esteban Arellano, who's an award-winning author, and he's also a farmer, and he has sheep. He's from the village of Embudo. he talks about some intrusions that have happened. In the 1930s, government welfare came in. And he talks about this as being a terrible thing because it encouraged the farmers to stop growing. In the 1950s, the central town of all the villages got the first food market. And Esteban describes this as further unraveling the basic sustainability. In the 1940s, LANL came in, Los Alamos National Laboratory. And what it did was that it established a class society. I mean, granted, the people from the valley who went up to the hill were pushing brooms, but still they were getting a salary, and the other people in the valley didn't have salaries. So here we are, the invasion continues on. We call it global corporate globalization at this point. In the 1990s, Picaris Pueblo, up the mountain from my village, about 300 people on this pueblo. And they were informed that a Canadian multinational was coming in, and they were going to do mica mining on what traditionally was Picaris land, but now is so-called national forest. And they had all the papers in order, and they had the right according to the Mining Act, and they were ready to go. Well, they had to throw a hearing, the obligatory hearing, ho hum. You know, we have to do this. Well, the Picaris sent out their entire group of war chiefs in full regalia. And they came into this hearing, and they got up and they said, if you mine mica in our traditional mica lands, because they were really known for their mica pottery, we're going to declare war on you. And so about 2 weeks later, there's this little teeny article in the page 8 of the newspaper, and it said the Canadian multinational had suddenly decided that they were going to go back to Canada. So similarly, in the 1980s, a bank came into our village and set up an ATM machine. And they did it, there was a shed with a portal, and it was really used mostly by the horses. And the horses would escape from their pasture every day and go meet under the portal in the shade. And then at the end of the day, they'd all go home. And so they liked, the bank liked this because you could drive in, and if it was snowing or something, you could still get your money out. So here's the ATM machine. The guys in the village went and got their hunting rifles and shot the ATM machine. Took the money, and that was the end of that. So, with the concern about intrusion, there is often, and a knowledge, you know, I mean, a self-righteous knowledge about your place, but not about other places. There is a confusion sometimes about what is out there. What does that mean, these things out there? So this is a little tale that was told to me in the 1990s by a tribal councilman from Laguna Pueblo. And Laguna is about 40 miles west of Albuquerque. And they decided